In this video, I'll discuss CSS3 columns and responsive design. So back in the day, if you wanted to create columns on your website, you'd have to create separate containers like div objects. And with CSS3 and HTML5, that's changed. So we're looking at a layout right now. What I'd like to do is I'd like to see some columns here, and I'd also like to see it respond differently as I resize this document or this window down, so that on viewports, say for a cell phone, we would only actually see one column, but I'd like to see three columns here. So let's go ahead and take a look at our code. Now I've got three media queries. I've got one for max width 800 pixels, and that'll cover anything below 801, so that means tablets and smartphones. And here I've got a media query that's between 801 pixels and 1024 pixels, and that could also include tablets. And then I've got one that's greater than 1024 pixels, and that one is for desktop and laptop computers or anything that can handle that kind of resolution. So let's take a look at our very first media query for small devices. Now I have a container right here called content, and what I want to do is modify content for columns. Now in CSS3 we have to do a few things here. We have to do this first. So I'm going to do column dash count and just give an integer for the number of columns. For this one I only want one column because it's a very small screen size. Now when you do this, you're going to have to add a line for WebKit and Mozilla browsers. So WebKit would be Chrome or Safari. So we type in dash WebKit and then dash, and then I'll just paste in the column count after that. And again, we have to do the same thing for Mozilla. And that looks pretty good. So we've got one column for the small screen. Now let's go ahead and just I'm going to grab this to make it easier, just copy it. Move down to our second media query, look for our content container, there it is, paste that in. Now for this one I want to modify things a little bit. I'm going to add a column gap because what we're doing here is we're actually creating multiple columns. Remember, this is the medium-sized screen. So we're going to do two columns for this one, and I'm also going to add this CSS rule, column dash gap. And that'll just create a gap in between the columns. Now we can do pixels, we can do percentage, or we can do VW or VH. I'll do VW, which is viewport width. And remember, that's a percentage of that. So let's say, let's just try 1 VW. We might have to modify that. And copy this, because again, we have to do the same thing. We have to make sure that we have WebKit considered and Mozilla as well. Okay, that's great. Now we're going to move down to our largest screen size. Grab all that, right click, copy, and find contents right there. Add a line, paste that in, and here we're going to have three columns. So as the screen resizes, we're going to have the column numbers changed, and for this maybe I'll create a larger column gap of 2, and again I might have to tweak these a bit, but I'm just guessing here. I'll go ahead and save that now, and let's take a look. Okay, so that's not too bad actually. That looks pretty good. And as you can see, at the large screen size, we've got three columns. We've got a nice gap in between them. And as we shrink the window down, we'll see that we hit that threshold of below 1025 pixels, and then suddenly we shift over to two columns. And then as I keep resizing down, we'll hit that third threshold, the smallest screen size, which I believe is 800 pixels or less, and then we go to one column. And that's how you do it. It's really simple. Just keep in mind that you do have to put in the, for this particular CSS rule, you have to put in the WebKit and Mozilla extensions in order to make sure that this will work on Mozilla browsers like Firefox and WebKit browsers like Safari and Chrome.